I'm Brianna.
And I'm Akira.
And you're watching
DONTAE'S Boxing Nation.
Brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
Hey yo, check this out, this is Flavor Flav, and if you want the whole truth, and nothing but the whole truth, so help the whole truth. Hey yo, you better listen to Dante, baby. Dante!
What's going on, y'all, and welcome to another great edition of the DONTAE'S Boxing Nation Show. I am your host, Dante, and we are back. We got a whole lot of boxing to talk about. Let me first go ahead and introduce the boxing panel as always. Well, actually, we got some more cats on the boxing panel. Let me introduce my man Fred from Barbershop Conversations. I got my man Kirk Jackson from Boxing Insider. He's a writer on that website. Check him out. You already know my man Boxing Ego. Check out his website, boxingego.com. And my man AK Arab King. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel on YouTube as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Now, we got a lot to talk about, man. There's been a whole lot of stuff that came out. HBO basically dumping the Manny Pacquiao versus Vargas fight. That's the first thing I want to talk about. Let's start with you, Kirk Jackson. Since you are new to the panel, I want to know what your reaction was to this news of HBO dumping the Manny Pacquiao versus Vargas fight, and why do you think they did it?
It's not a surprise to me. I think what we've been seeing with HBO lately, with the lack of viewership and lack of pay-per-views, and with Pacquiao is honestly, it's that Floyd Mayweather effect. Ever since he kind of shifted gears and went to Showtime, things have been on the downslide. And I think with Pacquiao and Jesse Vargas not being on pay-per-view HBO, I think it shows that there isn't a lot of money in regards to budgeting and promoting the fight and putting the fight on pay-per-view, and it also speaks to the lack of fan demand of wanting to see that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fred, the whole thing is, can Bob Arum and Manny Pacquiao, can they recover from this situation? This is bad. This is Manny Pacquiao. He's been with HBO for about 10 years, and all of a sudden they say, look, man, we don't want this fight. Does this just go to show you that they want a certain level of opponent for Manny Pacquiao to face? Like, do you think this means they wanted that HBO, they wanted that Manny Pacquiao versus Terrence Crawford or someone on that level, Fred?
Yeah, I certain they wanted Terrence Crawford, but what holds true, and this for many athletes, and this is for humans in general, you have to consistently reinvent yourself. Floyd Mayweather being Floyd Money Mayweather to, from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather, and now he has Mayweather Promotions. Manny Pacquiao never really took the next step outside the ring versus inside the ring. He really had a persona. He over than that. What's crazy?
You're breaking up a little bit, Fred. You're just breaking up a little bit.
If you subscribe to HBO, you have to be a double pack because you're paying your subscription fees and you have to watch boxing. So in actuality, HBO is losing time, and I think us as consumers need to raise our voices and be like, hey, if you're not going to give us the fights we want, why should we subscribe to your channel?
Yeah.
Or to subscribe, And but I'm with everyone else. I wanted Terrence Crawford at any means necessary. For multiple reasons. But Manny Pacquiao chose the latter, which is Jesse Vargas. So
yeah, my whole thing on Boxing Eagle, I just think, unfortunately for HBO, this just makes Showtime look so much better. Because while they're putting these matches, these mismatches on the network, we have all of these fights coming on Showtime, back to back to back, all these free fights, and sometimes they fill up the whole week with fights. Just this week alone, you have Errol Spence, and then you have Robert the Ghost Guerrero. So, is this just a good look for Showtime versus HBO Boxing Ego? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I called this, I forecasted this. It's really just, to me, a sign of the times. You look at Manny Pacquiao, 5 years of debate on who would win, him or Floyd Mayweather. Floyd was victorious, so I think that took his stock down. On top of that, you got PBC and Showtime putting out a high volume of fights, a ton of fights. Kareem Mayfield's fighting tonight. Then they have the Big Baby Miller. It's like a quadruple header. That's tonight on Showtime, a random. There's no real boxing on tomorrow because the UFC has a big card. And then, like I said, Errol Spence Jr. is on Sunday. Random Sunday, we get to see a title eliminator for the IBF.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, like I said, it's a sign of the times. Pacquiao is at the point where, after losing Mayweather, plus dealing with PBC, kind of what Fred said, the fans are kind of speaking with their pocketbook. And I think he's still a big star, but he's not the star he was where he could just fight David Diaz, fight Bradley 1 and 2, and still do $750,000 to $1 million. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's to the point where Pacquiao, he needs another name to help him carry the pay-per-view because they got the Fire Sticks and all these streaming websites and stuff like that. People aren't trying to pay for some bullshit that they didn't want. Me, you, and Fred were all covering Crawford versus Postal, and we all talked about how excellent and exceptional Crawford looked. Postal said, "Oh, he hurt me in the 5th round or whatever it was." Freddie Roach was like, his speed was incredible, and they said Pacquiao can make 140. So, I mean, it seemed like a fight. Everyone was talking more about that particular fight, even though it would have been at 140, maybe 147. Crawford said he wasn't offered at anything. So, again, it's kind of a sign of the times. You're dealing with free TV. Pacquiao needs an elite-level name, someone who is perceived as somewhat of a threat or good business, like a Broner, Garcia, Keith Thurman, Terrence Crawford type of name. And that's why you're seeing HBO kind of dump them. And, yeah, Showtime, PBC kill him.
Yeah, and like I said in my video, I mean, Pacquiao, he's pretty much in a rare position right now because usually you have the promoter protecting you. You know, you have everyone, you have the networks protecting you. But this is a rare occasion because this is a situation where nobody wanted this fight, you know, when it comes to HBO, when it comes to Bob Arum, when it comes to the fans. Nobody wanted this fight. And, you know, it's a bad situation for Manny Pacquiao because Manny Pacquiao, for whatever reason, or I shouldn't say for whatever reason, he believed truly that this was the only guy that he could probably beat for sure. I mean, it's no different than when he fought against Chris Algieri. Manny Pacquiao, he completely felt that this is the one guy out of all the options that I can beat for sure. And there's, you know, not even a guarantee that he can beat him. I just hope for Jesse Vargas that this is more motivation for him to pull off the upset when he sees the way people are criticizing this fight and they're looking at him like a big-ass cherry pick. I just hope this really, really motivates Jesse Vargas. So we'll see,
and
man.
I gotta add one thing to that too. The other thing is, what does this tell you about HBO? They've had nurtured the career of Pacquiao for 10 years, and Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward is in November, and they basically took two people who have been on their network that have never been on pay-per-view, but they're still putting their marbles with Ward Kovalev, two non-pay-per-view stars, as opposed to Pacquiao, who's been on pay-per-view. That just shows you they're more confident in two non-pay-per-view stars, people who haven't headlined pay-per-views themselves, in their meaningful fight because they know it's a better fight. It's as a fight, what it means to the light heavyweight division, to me, is more than what Pacquiao, if he beats Jesse Vargas, means to the welterweight division. And it's crazy to see that they have that 10-year history with Pacquiao, but they're choosing two unproven HBO stars. So it just goes to show you Ward Kovalev is definitely a quality of fight, and HBO knows that. So that's why they selected it.
Absolutely.
And also to add on, oh, my bad, I just wanted to add on that not only did they drop the fight, but they got rid of the contract. So he's not messing with HBO going forward.
Are you sure about that? Because I heard some conflicting.
The thing is, Bob Arum said, he says as far as he's concerned, you can't.
They broke the contract by not putting the fight up, right?
Bob Arum says, as far as I'm concerned, the contract is terminated. HBO hasn't come out and said, hey, we're terminating the contract. But Arum says you're not going to be able to just pick and choose which fights you want to televise. He has a Senate duty, and this is that. So that's per Bob Arum. It's not for HBO hasn't commented on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the inclination is HBO. They still want to work with Manny Pacquiao, but Bob is like, no, we done. Just like Ego just said, that's how Bob Arum is looking at it. You can't just pick and choose what fights you guys are going to basically host when it comes to Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, I think Arum just feels betrayed. Like, what the hell?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you're not gonna pick up.
Yeah.
Remember when Snoop Dogg was at the Source Awards in '95? And he was like, "These folks ain't got love for Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg." That's Bob Arum. He's like, "Y'all ain't got love for Manny Pacquiao? Let it be known then."
Let it be known then. Let it be known.
And he had that bat with the crib rag on it. Yeah, that's Bob Arum right now. Yeah. He's like, HBO ain't got love for Manny Pacquiao and Jesse Vargas? Well, let it be known then.
And you know what, man? I mean, I'm telling you, AK, I mean, the whole thing is when you look at the way HBO reacted, doesn't it seem like they reacted the exact same way all the boxing fans did? Do you think that's how they reacted, AK, or is it just that obvious by their actions?
Yeah, I think they reacted the same way. I mean, really nobody was calling for the Vargas fight, and he won a vacant title, you know, that he lost initially to Bradley. So nobody was looking forward to Vargas versus Pacquiao, and HBO was really pushing for the Crawford fight because of, they want him to be this new star, or like the new pay-per-view star on HBO side. But because Pacquiao wouldn't fight Crawford, and he fought Vargas instead, that's why they turned their back on him. But it's kind of messed up, like Ego said, because at the end of the day, this guy been fighting for y'all for the past 10 years. And like you said, Dante, you can't betray a guy like that who, I mean, I think Pacquiao been getting lowballed after, I think, 2009, after he beat, or 2008 when he beat De La Hoya. I think he should have got paid more than he actually did. And he stick with HBO. Yeah, he didn't leave Bob Arum, and, they turned their back on him. But, again, you can't be picking and choosing like Bradley 3, now Vargas. You got, in between them, you got to fight somebody now, You can't just be, you can't just be, again, I'm going to just say it, you can't just be cherry-picking your whole way.
Well,
just
Go ahead.
I was just going to say one part of what AK says I agree with, but I also blame that on Pacquiao, and I've said this for years, is I don't think Pacquiao is as business savvy. I think at this point, a couple years ago, Pacquiao could have did his own promotional company like Mayweather, like Cotto, like De La Hoya, and then he could have did a joint venture with Top Rank and had them like put on his fight. So I don't know if Pacquiao's the same business mind as like a Mayweather. You look at Mayweather, he might possibly sign Shakur Stevenson. That's money in the bank. You know what I mean? But you don't really see a lot of other fighters making these power boss moves like that, especially like Pacquiao. Pacquiao, I don't know, he's kind of like more of an employee than a boss to me. He's a good fighter and all that, but I just don't see him making those power moves with his career. He'd rather be loyal and leave it in someone else's hands.
I mean, Boxing Ego, since we're talking about that, you remember Max Kellerman, he criticized Manny Pacquiao's move for taking this Jesse Vargas fight. He said it was a cherry pick. Do you think that's somewhat still a little bit of a contradiction for Max Kellerman, because he was saying before this that Manny Pacquiao was the fighter of the decade over Floyd Mayweather, despite losing to Floyd Mayweather. But now he's talking about how he's cherry picking. I mean, is that somewhat of a contradiction? Because to me, Ego, that proves to me deep down, Max Kellerman didn't even believe that when he said that Manny Pacquiao was the fighter of this generation over Floyd Mayweather. What you think, Ego?
I mean, I honestly, all promoters, or if you're set to a certain network where you have to kind of prioritize, it's hard for me to believe anything you're talking about when it sounds outlandish.
Conflict of interest, yeah.
That's the great thing about the YouTube platform. We're mini entrepreneurs. We're our own bosses. So if PBC, Showtime, if HBO, if any of them are doing what they're supposed to be doing, we can speak out and be like, oh, props. Or if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, we could speak out. It's not like they're signed, Top Rank or Mayweather Promotions or Golden Boy or anybody signing our paycheck. So I don't think Max Kellerman, I interviewed him, and I know he's smart in terms of boxing knowledge. I know he's a student of the game. So I personally don't think he believes a lot of what he said about Pacquiao and Mayweather and whose career you would rather have, and that Pacquiao, even though he lost and got knocked out multiple times, is a better fighter of this era because he moved up more divisions. I mean, stuff like that is asinine. That means, by default, Evander Holyfield is better because he moved up from cruiserweight to heavyweight and had a successful career, as opposed to Ali, who stayed at heavyweight his whole career. You know what I'm saying? You can't really the weight jump, especially when the lower weight you are, the smaller the jumps. 118 to like 122 is a jump. 122 to 126, 126 to 130. Those are all like small jumps. When you get in the big boy weight classes, it's usually like 8 pounds or something, like 160 to 168. That's why Golovkin don't really want to go to that 68.
Yeah, of course. Oh yeah, we gonna talk about Golovkin as always, but go ahead.
I just want to make a point right quick about Max Kellerman. On an interview he did on ESPN, because he got he's the new guy on the show. I guess he replaced the other dude. I forgot his name, but
Skip
he was
Bayless.
talking about how Skip Bayless. And he was talking about how Manny Pacquiao fought everybody, like before the Mayweather fight or before the Bradley 3 fight. He was fighting everybody and fighting all these best guys. But I'm like, who is this guy that he was? Who are these guys that he was fighting? Because other than Bradley, he fought Mosley after he lost to Floyd. He fought Hatton after he basically got knocked out by Floyd, and he was at his best after that. He fought Rios after Rios after and even Margarito at a catchweight at 150 after he got knocked out by Mosley.
Right.
And I'm like, who are these guys or these killers that he's talking about that he fought, back in his prime or whatever? That I think he's talking about Floyd, because Floyd did that. Floyd is the one who fought Mosley after his biggest win. And stuff like that.
You know what's funny though, what you saying that, AK? Because I've heard a couple people try to criticize Errol Spence for fighting against Leonard Bundu, and I'm hearing some of the fans, the detractors, of course, the decafs. They're saying I had like 2 people send me a message and say this is not impressive. All he's doing is beating up Keith Thurman's sloppy seconds, et cetera, et cetera. So if that's the case, then you could pretty much say that Manny Pacquiao, you could pretty much say that he's extremely overrated if we're using that logic, because everybody that Manny Pacquiao beat, someone else had already beat them. And not only did someone just beat them, but it was just recent. It wasn't like that person had lost 2 or 3 years ago. It was recent. You know what I mean? So, that's just another little contradiction.
At a catchweight. I mean, put that in there too. So you got
or the guys coming off the loss or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And you look at like when they compare like, Pacquiao demolished Mayweather's leftovers better than him, but Ricky Hatton was undefeated when Floyd fought him. He was knocked out, and I think he beat like Paulie Malignaggi and maybe someone else. And you look at the guys that Pacquiao fought before Mayweather, like Marquez. He struggled with Marquez 3 times, all fights, and then got knocked out by Marquez. Floyd fought him off a 21-month layoff, and then he knocked him down and dominated him for 12 rounds. You know what I mean? Even Cotto, I think Mayweather fought him under better conditions, because Cotto, when he fought Pacquiao, it was at 144, 145, and he immediately after losing to Pacquiao moved up to 54 and fought Yuri Foreman. So clearly his body rejected that low weight, but when Floyd fought him, it was at the full 54.
Yeah, of course. There's no doubt about it. And Pacquiao refused. And Pacquiao refused to fight Miguel Cotto at 154.
So like Dante, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick too. Pacquiao stopped Cotto at that time after the Margarito loss. He stopped Cotto in the 11th round at a catchweight of 144. So if it took 11 rounds to stop Cotto at a more of a drained weight, do you think Cotto may have actually went the distance or had a better performance at 54? If he fought him 10 pounds higher?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, even Manny Pacquiao feels that Cotto would have had a better performance. That's why he didn't take the fight at 154 in the rematch. So, yeah. I mean, it's...
And I think to piggyback what you guys are saying, I think most people, when they look at a resume of a fighter, they just see the name and see that they fought
Yeah.
They don't look at the individual circumstances for each fight, like you guys have talked about. You know, Miguel Cotto and Pacquiao. Cotto at a catch weight. Also, he didn't have his main trainer because he had beef with his uncle at the time, who was training him.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there was a lot of conflict going on with his personal life, which probably led to affecting his performance to a certain extent. And like with a lot of the members of the media, whether it's HBO or this publication or another publication, they're gonna advertise. They're gonna speak favorably about certain guys because it's gonna benefit them financially. And like with Manny Pacquiao, it's you know, when comparing him to Floyd Mayweather, they always, you know, hype up his accomplishments, even though he's beaten the same people a year later with, you know, different circumstances. And it's like, even looking at Manny Pacquiao, let's say dating back to when he first won Fighter of the Year back in 2006, a lot of the guys he fought were coming off losses or moving up in weight, or they were at some disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, you know, he beats them and he gets Fighter of the Year. And it's like, They apply different criteria to fighters they like.
Oh, of course, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And see, we can talk about this all day. Like Bradley had one fight. Tim Bradley had one fight at welterweight against Luis Carlos Abrego. He looked good in there. Dropped back down to 140, and then he jumped back up to 147 for Pacquiao. Versus Mayweather. Mayweather has 2.5 fights over 150. You know, I mean, the Oscar De La Hoya and Cotto, and then also Canelo, who was 13 years his junior and was the undefeated champion off his best win at the time, Austin Trout. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when have we seen that from Pacquiao? Took an undefeated, young, strong, bigger champions or somebody who just had a ton of momentum like that. Brandon Rios moved up from 40 to 47, 7 pounds off of an Alvarado loss.
Yeah. Manny Pacquiao.
Mike Alvarado, I don't know if Mike Alvarado would have did much better, but at least the champion, he would have been in there. You know what I mean? The guy who won the second fight.
And that's the problem with the Jesse Vargas fight. And I want to make it clear, you know, it's not Jesse Vargas' fault. And I really hope Jesse Vargas does well once again because of all of the backlash that Manny Pacquiao is getting. It's not Vargas' fault. But what makes this pick so bad is when you look at the pattern, like you guys are saying right now. And if you look at Manny Pacquiao's track record, he's done this every single time. Every single time, Bob Arum said, look, man, I got 3 fighters. You know, you could choose which one you want to fight. Manny Pacquiao always chose who he believed was the weakest link. Algieri, Brandon Rios, Jesse Vargas, Tim Bradley a third time. When we could have got Lucas Matisse, when we could have got Ruslan Provodnikov, when we could have got, you know, a lot of different opponents. Even Danny Garcia or Adrian Broner, even though they say that, you know, they turned down the offer because they wanted more money. I mean, you know, if Bob Arum and Manny Pacquiao and HBO or whoever, if they cared that much about, you know, pleasing the fans, they should have said, wait a minute, guys. If we don't want the Jesse Vargas fight, let's go back to the table with Adrian Broner, with Danny Garcia. Let's see if we can compromise, if we can get these guys a little bit more money. Because this is a much bigger fight, you know. But they didn't do that. And so Manny Pacquiao, he has a long history of picking who he believed to be the weakest link. Even going all the way back to lightweight. When he was fighting at lightweight, people don't even pay attention to this. But the best lightweight was the Galaxy Warrior, Nate Campbell. And I talked to Nate Campbell. He said that they told me that, no, we're not fighting you at all, Nate. And who did they fight? They end up fighting the flat-footed, walking punching bag, David Diaz. And that's how he got his title at that weight class. So, yeah, Manny Pacquiao's been doing this for a long time. Go ahead, man.
I'm just going to say real quick, name the last fighter other than Mayweather, of course, and that was just a huge fight where no one's going to pass up that type of money that they made in that fight.
Win-win. Go ahead.
Yeah, aside from Mayweather, name the fighter Pacquiao fought where in their last 1 or 2 fights, they didn't look extremely vulnerable. You look at Chris Algieri, he had one eye versus Ruslan Provodnikov in a split decision win at 40, fought Pacquiao the next fight. Brandon Rios was off of a loss. Tim Bradley almost got knocked out and had a concussion versus Ruslan Provodnikov. Then he gets the rematch. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So it's like a constant string. Like you look at Robert Guerrero. I mean, he had Iden fight, then he had Berto, where he looked pretty good in those fights. Canelo was undefeated. He looked good in his Shane Mosley fights, Baldomir, Austin Trout. But when is the last time Pacquiao spot somebody like Crawford, who you haven't really seen the flaws. You would have to find out in the ring on the fight night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. And once again, man, this is why I want to get some decafs on the show, man. Because, for all you guys that don't like to hear the truth, I want you guys to come on the show and tell us what we are saying that you guys disagree with. Because everything we are saying, you guys know to be facts. So when you sit over here saying, oh, you hating and all this kind of stuff, all you're really telling us is you don't want us to tell the truth. You want us to make up some stuff to make you feel better, but it doesn't go down that way. But anyway, let's move on. And Fred, man, let me get you back on the horn, man. So me and you.
Oh, I'm good. I'm actually listening like a fan.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Hey, Fred, we had a real good conversation when we talked about Gennady Golovkin. We talked about all kind of stuff. You said that you didn't give Kell Brook too much of a chance. What was your reaction to Kell Brook outweighing Golovkin by 11 pounds? Is that a good move for Kell? Is that a bad move? What do you think, man? Your reaction?
I genuinely believe it was intentional by the account, just so they can sell the fight. But the reality of it, I don't give Kell Brook a chance at all. He's an ABC fighter, right? And so is Gennady Golovkin, but they're on different levels. So I think Gennady Golovkin is the better, stronger, more experienced. I mean, he's traveled more. They probably have the same amount of fights, but I think he's traveled more, a little bit more seasoned. And I don't give Kell Brook a chance in this fight, but I tell you what, I'm going to be watching it. Because it's a sexy fight, and I get to watch it for free. So I'll be covering the Chocolatito fight. You know what I mean? Is it a good move? He got to lose 16 pounds in 30 days. That's not hard to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Considering you gain the weight right back, so you can lose 5 pounds in a workout. Mm-hmm. You put the sweat cream, you put them bags on you. You can lose 5 pounds in a workout, and you go in and weigh in. And then you get back up to 170. So it's not really a big deal. I don't see it as a big deal.
And does Kell Brook just have a real tiny frame? Because even with him outweighing Golovkin, why does he still look so much smaller? He still looks smaller than Golovkin, even outweighing him. I mean, I guess he just has a real small frame. Now, Kirk, we've never got your take on this fight. What's your thoughts on the Kell Brook Golovkin fight?
I think it's not going to last long. You can weigh a certain weight. He weighs more than Golovkin right now, but weighing a certain weight and then fighting at a weight class it's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And from what we've seen from both fighters, they're both obviously very skilled fighters. I'm disappointed in Golovkin's resume throughout the course of his career, but just watching him, he's obviously very talented. He's a silver medalist in the Olympics. He has a lot of experience. Kell Brook has showcased a lot of skills throughout the course of his career, even though he's fought limited. But, he did well against Sean Porter. He's a good fighter. I just think his biggest issue is, for the style of fight I think he needs to implement to be effective, I don't think he can pull off that style of fighting to beat Golovkin. I think if you're going to beat Golovkin, you kind of have to be a hybrid fighter like an Andre Ward and have the ability to kind of get in his chest and disrupt Golovkin's range so that he can get off his power shots. I don't think Kell Brook can do that.
Excellent breakdown, Kirk, because the whole thing is when it comes to Gennady Golovkin, he likes fighters that keep their distance from him. He likes to extend his punches. He likes to catch you. He likes to work off the jab. He likes to counter off your jab with big overhand rights, and that's the whole problem with Kell Brook is he's going to be out there on the outside. You're going to have to fight a perfect fight against Golovkin because once again, when it comes to his street fighter health bar, he's dealing with a 25% health bar. He doesn't have a full health bar like Golovkin does. So Golovkin can make a lot of mistakes, just like Canelo can make a lot of mistakes against Amir Khan. So, it's an uphill battle. Something else I wanted to touch on is I did a video about it last week. Carl Froch, He's jumped on the wagon with all the other professional fighters. I mean, there have been so many professional fighters coming out basically saying they want to see Gennady Golovkin step up in competition. They want to see him move up in weight. So Carl Froch, he basically, just said the same thing. And it was interesting because after I did a video about it and after Carl Froch talked about it, Tom Loeffler, he responded and said, we want Carl Froch next. Right? So Boxing Ego, my question is that all Edeslani Lara or DeGale, is that all they have to do to get a fight? Is just criticize Golovkin when it comes to moving up? I mean, why are they so interested in Froch versus everyone else that's been calling him out?
Man, all I'm gonna say is I'm enjoying life. New media. I'm loving life because we've been calling for the same stuff. We've been saying the same stuff. Golovkin's a good fighter. Resume needs work. And it's that simple. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, Team Golovkin. I don't know if boxers even have PR people anymore because that I'm noticing like you hear so many contradictions in all of these. I just seen a interview where Loeffler said if they do go up to 68, Gilberto Ramirez is the most likely candidate. So I don't think they want to fight a James DeGale. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then I seen something else that they said we're not really interested in Ramirez. So it's kind of all over the place, and that's kind of Team Golovkin's fault because these are all – it's either Abel, Tom, or Golovkin that are saying majority of these things, and sometimes they don't really add up. So no. I don't know what Laura do. To me, just being honest, it seems like they're selective as who they want to fight, and if you have a deep amateur pedigree like Andre Ward, Olympic gold medalist, Edeslani Lara, tricky style with the deep Cuban boxing school, James DeGale, British gold medalist, right? It's like those are the fights they don't really care about announcing, but then I keep seeing Carl Froch, who's retired. You know what I'm saying? Like, why you keep calling for this is the bottom line. There's people that are ducking Golovkin. That is true. Like Billy Joe Saunders, I don't know if Danny Jacobs wants it. Cotto, I don't think, won it. So there are people that are ducking him. But you don't – why do you keep picking on the people that don't – you know what I'm saying? It's like a teacher in school. Like, let's say there's a smart kid and he has his hand up, and you don't call on him ever, and then the people who don't have their hand up, they call on you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So why are you not calling on the people – you keep calling on the people that are ducking you or don't want to fight you. We know that.
Yep.
We know Canelo doesn't want to fight you right away. So why don't you give one of these opportunities to Edeslani Lara, Gilberto Ramirez, James DeGale? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're 34. You have to make a plunge to greatness at some point. Beating Kell Brook, to me, that doesn't signify that you're the baddest man on the planet. That's like Mike Tyson at heavyweight knocking out a light heavyweight or a cruiserweight. I mean, that don't mean you're supposed to do that. That don't mean you're the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose situation. And I want to, make it very clear. I have always liked a Golovkin versus Froch fight. And I still like a Golovkin versus Froch fight. It's just very frustrating. It's just very frustrating for the fans, though, when, you hear Team Golovkin come out of nowhere and be so eager to fight Carl Froch. I mean, they've even said they're willing to go all the way up to 172 to fight Carl Froch. So, I mean, if that's the case, then there should be no problem with Golovkin fighting the winner of Kovalev versus Ward this November. But to Tom Loeffler's defense, I don't know how true it is, but they have also said that they want the DeGale fight as well. They said they want the DeGale fight, but it remains to be seen, or we don't know how true it is until we see what happens after the Brook fight. They also said they're interested in the Gilberto Ramirez fight if they don't get Danny Jacobs, because I know they're talking about Danny Jacobs as well. They said they're available for Danny Jacobs because I believe Danny Jacobs, he's fighting Sergio Mora one day before the Golovkin fight. So they'll be on a clash. They'll basically be on a collision, and it won't be anything getting in the way of them making that fight. So that's a good thing right there. We down to 5 minutes, man. We done burned up a whole lot of time, but let's go ahead and close out, I guess, with what is it? Errol Spence versus, oh, you know what? We didn't even talk about Shakur Stevenson, man. Real quick, I want to talk about that because as far as I'm concerned, and, you know, this is no disrespect to my man Errol Spence, but this Shakur Stevenson versus the Cuban, Robeisy Ramirez, this is the biggest fight of the weekend, I believe, you know, when it comes to boxing, because a gold medal is on the line. And we know there hasn't been a man to win a gold medal for USA since Andre Ward. So I truly believe this is a really, really big fight. And if you could win a gold medal, being an American, and then win a gold medal over a Cuban fighter, man, that's a big deal. That's a real, real big deal. So what do you think, just real quick, Kirk, what do you think Shakur's chances are when against the Cuban?
I think he has great chances. He's been touted as the best American prospect for years now as an amateur, and I believe he's undefeated internationally. He's 24-0 or 25-0,
23,
something like that.
23-0. They said, yep,
23-0.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's a great fighter. I had the pleasure of watching him for the last couple of years now. He came down to Reno for the Olympic trials, and he's an amazing fighter. I'm pulling for him. You know, as a brother, as an American, I think he has a great shot. So hopefully he can do what he can do.
And one thing I will say, and then we'll talk a little bit about Errol Spence, is you know, I've been watching Ramirez real close, the Cuban. He's very impressive. You know, he's very slick, has that Cuban style. You know, he's really, really clever and rhythmic in there. You know, I'm seeing the special effects and all of that kind of stuff. But the one thing I see that he lacks is great defense. He's been getting caught with some clean shots. So, you know, it kind of reminds me of a Juan Manuel Marquez. You know how Marquez, he's a great counterpuncher, but he gets hit a lot. And you normally don't see that when it comes to, you know, a counterpuncher. Usually counterpunchers or slick fighters, they usually have a great defense. So I think that's the difference in this fight, and that's where Shakur has an edge. I also believe Shakur, he can adjust better than the Cuban can. So, of course, I'm pulling for Shakur, and hopefully he gets it done. So real quick, let's get some quick predictions. Knockout, unanimous decision, Errol Spence versus Bundu. AK, how does it play out, man? AK, you there? Okay, I think we lost AK. So, Fred, a real quick prediction. How does it play out? Knockout, decision, upset? I got
Bundu winning by knockout in the 8th round.
There you go.
You lying?
He's just trying to wake everybody up. He's trying to wake everybody up. That's all it is.
Errol Spence is going to be one of the top 2 or 3 fighters in the world in 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And I think he's doing a great job at talking more, you know. And I think once he gets out of his shell, he's going to be a mega star because he looks the part, he speaks well, he's calm, and he gets knockouts in the ring, and he's an offensive fighter. So I think the sky's the limit for him. Is just for these quote unquote older statesmen going to step up in the ring and fight him because they say he's too young.
Yeah, and I want to say this real quick too, Fred. You know, for everyone who's trying to criticize Errol Spence, once again, it's back to the coincidental list. We all know that Sammy Vasquez, he turned down the fight. Lamont Peterson, he turned down the fight. And Panamarev, who's trained by Abel Sanchez, he claimed he was injured, but I didn't really see any, I didn't see any proof of him being injured. So a lot of fighters, they turned down Errol Spence. And Leonard Bundu, he was the only person that stepped up to take the challenge. We already know if it was up to Errol Spence, he would be fighting Kell Brook right now. But Kell Brook didn't want it either. So since I know we all, predicting Errol Spence will win the fight, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up since we out of time. We'll be back next week, guys. Thanks for everybody tuning in. We're on to the next one, y'all.